this is like a box of hell. We don't get no news, no talk, no nothing.
That is Lil Durk discussing his crazy jail circumstances with DJ Chemex during a prison conversation, and the young guy is undoubtedly going through a lot. Not only that, but Durk also made several disclosures that may have a significant effect on his case. Let's begin. Since being arrested at Miami International Airport, Lil Durk has been detained in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, where he has been fighting the case behind the wall. On November 14, 2024, he entered a not guilty plea to all accusations in a federal court in Los Angeles. With 20,000 pages of documentation and more than 230 terabytes of digital evidence, the case is so complicated that his trial, which was originally scheduled for January 7, 2025, was moved to October 14, 2025. Prosecutors have repeatedly refused to grant Durk bail, citing his trip plans to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy, as well as other claims linking him to another corpse, arguing that he poses a flight risk. On December 12, 2024, his legal team offered $3 million for bail, which included property and house arrest, but the court rejected the offer. How has Smirk's life been under lockdown? Then, Durk has given us hints about his attempt via a few music releases and brief prison calls. Durk allegedly discussed declining PC protective custody in one recorded jail conversation that surfaced online, which some, including academics, believe to be a bold move for such a well-known prisoner. In an April 2025 call that was posted on X, previously Twitter, Durk said that while being in prison, he hasn't heard any songs from his forthcoming album, Deep Thoughts. Durk most recently discussed how he spends his days behind the wall.
Yeah, ain't nothing changed, bro. I just been focused on life, my family and stuff like that. I'm trying to learn how to speak Arabic,
Wait, how you learn that? Like, how do you get to learn that? They got classes?
You said, no, it's a couple guys here that not speak Arabic fluently. So I'm just learning the different words and, tighten up my Arabic, just getting my knowledge together.
Learning Arabic from other prisoners, and according on earlier accounts, hooping 2v2 to remain active in another recorded conversation that seems to be dated late April 2025. However, Durk's messages from the prison have not always been accurate. He was found making three-way conversations after being instructed not to at the MDC in Los Angeles. According to reports indicating that he has not been abiding by prison regulations regarding phone usage, this was used by the prosecution as evidence that he disobeys the law, which has hurt his prospects of being released on bail. Durk has maintained his reputation in the music industry while being imprisoned. He shared information about his album, Deep Thoughts, on X on March 28, 2025, writing, "I wasn't going to put this out, but then I remembered the streets lead this. Not being outside with y'all when I drop is hard, but I know I will feel y'all love and energy through these walls." Despite his legal issues, his fan following continues to support him, as seen by the album's number 3 ranking on the Billboard 200. Additionally, Durk is said to have spoken from the pen during a phone conversation that was included in Hypno Carlito's November 1, 2024 song Where Smirk Go. During the conversation, Durk reaffirmed his allegiance to only the family OT and expressed his affection for Carlito by referring to him as a brother. The voice didn't sound like the actual Durk, however, according to some X fans. Let's now discuss the ongoing legal struggle as Durk's team attempts to secure his release. The defense is fighting the accusations vigorously, led by lawyer Drew Findling, who is renowned for helping rappers get out of jams, using inaccurate and/or misleading grand jury evidence. Durk's defense team filed petitions to dismiss the superseding indictment and reevaluate his imprisonment. On April 19, 2025, the prosecution's use of Durk's line on Baby Ray's December 2022 song, Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, is the subject of their first significant disagreement. Prosecutors used quotes like as, "Told me they got an addy, go to the location, get the all clear, and go," and an allegation that these clubs were celebrating the shooting, citing a TV footage of Quando Rando responding to La Capone's death, and a reference to someone shouting, "No, no." Durk's attorneys retaliated, claiming that the song was produced in January 2022, 7 months prior to the August 2022 shooting, and that producers Juice Vibes and others had sworn declarations supporting this claim. The prosecution's assertion that Durk was rapping about his retaliation is undermined by this time frame, which precludes the lyrics from being about the event. The prosecution's argument would require believing Durk can see the future, sarcastically said. Their second main point refutes the prosecution's assertion that Quando Rando's "No" from a news footage is included in the song. According to Durk's staff, this isn't the original song, but rather fan-made YouTube modifications. They contend that Durk was not involved in these alterations and that the government was unable to link Durk to these modified versions, claiming that the video clips were fake and from unidentified internet users and shouldn't be used as proof. According to the motion, the grand jury's protective role has been compromised by the prosecution's gross misconduct in using this false evidence. The defense has requested to see grand jury transcripts in order to further review the evidence. claiming that these mistakes are significant enough to nullify the whole indictment. Durk's counsel petitioned for his release on bail, offering $1 million in cash from Sony Music and $2.3 million in Georgia property equity if the lawsuit isn't dropped along with the motion to dismiss, although an earlier bail request was denied. Judge Patricia Donahue authorized a bond hearing on May 8, 2025. La Capone's mother, Andrea Aquila Robinson, added to Durk's legal troubles in February 2025 when she filed a wrongful death case in Cook County Court against Durk, his business manager F., and a connected firm. According to the lawsuit, Durk planned a deliberate assault that murdered Robinson. But Durk is dealing with more than just the murder-for-hire case involving Quando Rando. Durk is linked to a second uncharged murder-for-hire conspiracy that targeted Stephen Mack, a suspected Gangster Disciples member in Chicago in 2022, according to a 2023 FBI affidavit. According to reports, this purported hit is linked to Durk's brother DTHANG's Dante Banks' 2021 murder. Although Durk has not been prosecuted for this second alleged conspiracy, prosecutors have used this information to argue that he should remain in custody because he poses a flight risk. The case against Durk also calls into question the increasingly questioned practice of utilizing rap lyrics as evidence in criminal prosecutions. Critics claim that this technique unjustly singles out hip-hop musicians for their artistic expression and denigrates the art form by treating songs as literal confessions. The hip-hop community and legal experts will be keenly following the trial, which has been rescheduled until October 14, 2025. Durk may face a life sentence if found guilty, but his defense team is still optimistic that they can refute the evidence used against him. It's evident that this case involves more than just one artist as we await the results of Durk's bail hearing on May 8, 2025, and the trial that follows. It draws attention to the intricate connections that exist between street culture, rap music, and the criminal justice system. Let's now examine Durk's case in light of a trend of rappers imprisoned for gang-related offenses, the ongoing conflict between Durk, NBA Youngboy, and Quando Rondo that may have played a role in this circumstance, and the implications of Durk's current legal dispute for the larger picture and legacy at stake. This is not the first time we have watched the film about Lil Durk's case. Mad rappers have been imprisoned throughout the years for their suspected participation in street fights and gang violence. Let's examine several situations that are similar to Durk's. Rapper YNW Melly, who is associated with the G Bloods, was arrested in February 2019 for reportedly murdering his friends and fellow YNW members Anthony YNW Sackhazer Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas. According to the DA, internal gang dynamics were connected to the deaths. Melly is currently incarcerated pending a retrial scheduled for September 2025 after his first trial resulted in a mistrial. In July 2023, prosecutors are utilizing music and associations as evidence in their case, which like Durk's incorporates allegations of gang-related violence planning. Next up is Tay-K, a rapper from Texas who is associated with the Daytona Boys gang in Arlington. In a house invasion gone wrong in 2016, he and his team targeted an op during a lick, which led to Ethan Walker being bodied. Tay-K received a 55-year sentence in 2019 after being convicted guilty of murder and aggravated robbery. Like Durk, Tay-K was a teenage rapper who became entangled in a violent gang feud. Drill rapper K-Flock, a member of the Bronx's Sevside gang in New York, was arrested in 2021 for the murder of Oscar Hernandez, which was purportedly related to a feud with the DOA gang. K-Flock faces a possible life sentence after being found guilty in 2024. K-Flock's situation, like Durk's, stems from the hyper-local gang rivalries caused by drill music, where feuds are exacerbated by social media and music. Young Thug, who was arrested in May 2022 after being charged with operating Young Stoner Life, YSL, as a criminal group connected to Bloods, is perhaps the most well-known comparison. Young Thug was charged with gang and RICO. In October 2024, he entered a plea to lesser charges after more than 2 years in prison and was freed on a 15-year probationary period. Similar to Durk, Young Thug was charged with violence against ops and accused of being the leader of a music group that the government classified as a gang. Additionally, there is C. Murder, a rapper from New Orleans who is associated with the Calliope Project's gang culture and signed to No Limit Records. In 2009, he was found guilty of second-degree murder for the death of 16-year-old Steve Thomas at a nightclub. Despite many appeals and allegations of prosecution wrongdoing, C. Murder was given life in prison without the possibility of release and remains incarcerated. All of these instances have something in common with Durk's. They demonstrate how gang feuds, which are often stoked by combative remarks on social media and in music videos, may result in actual violence and serious legal repercussions. They also draw attention to the fact that prosecutors often utilize the music, videos, and connections of rappers as evidence, sometimes mistaking creative expression for criminal admissions. Let's now examine the particular feud between Lil Durk NBA Youngboy, and Quando Rando that is said to have contributed to Durk's present predicament in more detail. This feud stems from the conflict between NBA Youngboy's Never Broke Again NBA camp and Lil Durk's Only the Family OTF group. A significant uptick occurred after King Von's assassination in November 2020. During a brawl with NBA Young player Quando Rando, King Von, one of Durk's best friends and an OTF signee, was shot and died outside an Atlanta club. Knowing the specifics of that evening is essential to comprehending what transpired. Outside the club, King Von reportedly shoved Quando Rando. Von was slain by bullets fired by Timothy Lul Tim Leaks, a guy who worked with Rando. In 2021, Lul Tim was freed from murder charges when prosecutors declared it to be so. This ruling apparently made Durk and the OTF camp prepared for war. Both sides were attacking Wax in social media after Von's passing. Quando Rando reportedly made fun of Lil Durk and King Von in the song Could Have Been Me, which also made reference to the incident. Rumor has it that Rondo attempted to end the feud by DMing Durk and requesting that they sort things out, but these attempts at reconciliation reportedly failed. NBA Youngboy and Durk continued to trade subtle jabs. In their songs in the meanwhile, their feud was heightened after Lil Durk apparently alluded to the opportunity to smoke NBA Youngboy in Utah in an unreleased 2023 song. This rivalry's industrial side adds another level of complexity. Lil Durk allegedly sought to black NBA Youngboy and Quando Rondo on Apple Music, telling the platform, "If y'all with those dudes, don't with me." According to social media posts, although there isn't any concrete evidence, it seems like Durk was attempting to cut off their business ties. Ultimately, federal prosecutors said that Durk placed a bag over Quando Rondo's head as part of a murder-for-hire scheme because he wanted revenge for King Von's passing. As a result, he is now facing life in the feds. This terrible series of incidents demonstrates the perilous combination of actual street violence and rap feuds. Competitive bars and social media bravado may turn into lethal altercations with grave legal repercussions. Deeper problems in drill music and Chicago's gang culture, where exacting retribution for lost friends is often seen as a code that outweighs legal repercussions, are reflected in the rivalry between these musicians. Music and social media have fueled this fire, intensifying the rivalry and transforming private grievances into public spectacles. As seen by Durk's argument against the lyric-based evidence, fan theories, bogus news, and altered videos have further muddied the situation. The fact that Durk seemed to be torn between mainstream success and street allegiance is maybe the most heartbreaking. Durk maintained his connections to OTF and Chicago street life despite his commercial successes and Grammy for All My Life 2024. While many fans appreciated this, others regarded it as a warning sign. Durk remained involved with O-Block and its perils, which could have contributed to his demise. In contrast to contemporaries like Chief Keef, who disassociated themselves from the block after blowing up, what does all of this signify for the hip-hop legacy of Lil Durk? Then, one of the most promising careers in contemporary rap might be ended if Durk is found guilty and sentenced to the remainder of his life behind bars. The musician who referred to himself as the voice of Chicago would be silenced, and his legal issues would eclipse his artistic legacy. However, Durk remains a major force in the music industry despite shutdown. Released in March 2025 while he was incarcerated, his album Deep Thoughts opened at number 3 on the Billboard 200, demonstrating that his fan base is still following him. His impact on drill music and beyond is indisputable. His melodic approach to street stories helped to form the sound of modern hip-hop. Important queries about hip-hop's link between art and reality are also brought up by Durk's case. Rap lyrics are used as evidence by prosecutors, which critics claim unjustly singles out the genre and treats creative expression as a kind of admission. According to academics like Eric Nielsen, this approach has come under increasing fire since it distorts the essence of musical narrative. In addition to the creative and legal issues, Durk's situation is a true personal tragedy. Given his attempts to foster peace via his mentoring work and Neighborhood Heroes Foundation, his fall has angered fans and pundits. The community's dissatisfaction with someone they saw as a success story from the trenches was shown when Broadview, Illinois, revoked an honorary key they had given him as a result of his incarceration. According to our most recent information, Durk is still being held in federal prison in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles, awaiting his trial on October 14, 2025, and his bail hearing on May 8, 2025. In addition to determining his own destiny, the verdict in his case might establish significant guidelines for how the system responds to hip-hop artists and their artistic expression. Lil Durk's narrative ultimately serves as a terrible illustration of how the combination of street culture, art, and personal allegiance in drill music can have fatal results. Following King Von's murder, Durk's feud with Quando Rando intensified via public insults and purported retaliation schemes, putting him in federal jail and perhaps facing life in prison. The case emphasizes the high stakes of drill beefs and the system's attitude to rap-related violence. even if his defense contests the evidence. The most agonizing aspect of Durk's existence is that he had a promising future in the drill rap scene and a solid start. How did it all go too wrong for a Kairaki kid? On October 24, 2024, Durk Derek Banks, better known by his stage as Lil Durk, made a dramatic change from Chirac to the charts. He was preparing to board a private aircraft to Italy when the federal authorities grabbed him at Miami International. Airport is in cuffs 1 minute and living in luxury the next. The game is done. However, we must go back and examine Durk's journey from the dangerous streets of Englewood to hip-hop fame and how the street life he never really left finally caught up with him in order to truly comprehend how Chirac's voice ended up in federal prison. Lil Durk, who was born on October 19, 1992, entered the conflict. Growing up in one of the roughest areas of Chicago's South Side, Englewood, young Durk was exposed to the bustle of real life at a young age. Durk was mostly raised by his mother, a nurse, who did her best to keep him off the streets when his father was imprisoned when he was only 7 months old. The streets, however, were beckoning. Durk jumped out of Paul Robeson High School as a youngster, joined the Black Disciples gang, and became a young father at the age of 17. He took his music career seriously as a means of avoiding this obligation. Durk's escape route became music. He began posting freestyles like Lamrin and Wasted on MySpace and YouTube in 2010, creating excitement in the then-emerging Chicago drill scene. In 2011, he released his first tape, I'm a Hitta. In 2012, he released I'm Still a Hitta and Life Ain't No Joke, which had over 216,000 downloads on that. That is a significant amount for an unsigned artist right out of the gate. With his 2012 hit song L's Anthem, which French Montana subsequently remixed, Durk advanced to a new level. Alongside Chief Keef and them, this song made him famous as a pivotal figure in Chicago's drill movement. By 2013, he signed a contract with Def Jam for his group Only the Family OTF. After the majors blew up his phone due to the popularity of L's Anthem and This Ain't What You Want, Rolling Stone named his fourth mixtape, Signed to the Streets. 2013, the 8th greatest mixtape of the year, and it got the streets talking. With features from Lil Reese and production by Young Chop, Durk made a name for himself as a melodious vocalist who could yet convey that unfiltered street slang. With his 2015 debut album Remember My Name, which peaked at number 14 on the Billboard 200 because two songs like Me, starring Jeremy, Durk, continued to rise, although it charted lower at number 29. His follow-up Lil Durk 2X 2016 included heavyweights like Future, Young Thug, and DJ Loaf. Songs like My Beyonce featuring DJ Loaf were very popular, demonstrating Durk's versatility. In 2018, Durk began eating a lot after leaving Def Jam. Hits like Three-Headed Goat with Lil Baby and Polo G followed his 2020 single Viral Moment, which became his first Hot 100 entry as a lead artist. He was featured on Drake's Laugh Now, Cry Later, and Pooh Shiesty's Back in Blood, which placed him at the center of every discussion over who is in charge. The Voice of the Heroes, Durk and Lil Baby's collaboration, peaked at number 1 on the Billboard 200 in 2021. His 2022 album, 7220, also peaked at number 1, while his 2023 album Almost Healed, which included the Grammy-winning song All My Life with Jay, peaked at number 3. Cole, which rose to the Hot 100's number 2 spot, with a $40 million Alamo contract, streaming checks, tour money, and side businesses like Durk Landry Trucking LLC. Durk was able to stack paper to the tune of a $8 million net worth by 2023, solidifying his status as the most prosperous artist to emerge from the drill scene. However, the street life kept dragging Durk back as he approached the bag. Due to his gang ties and the violent atmosphere in Chicago, Durk consistently caught cases. He pleaded to a lesser conviction in 2011 after being charged with possessing a firearm, when it was discovered that the serial number on a pole had been scraped out. He had another booking in Englewood in 2013 for a loaded .50 caliber of a The charges were dismissed. He was engaged in a shooting in Atlanta in 2019. These events, together with the loss of his people, his manager, his brother D-Thang, his cousin, and his guy King Van, illustrated the high cost Durk was incurring for continuing to be involved with the streets when his career was flourishing. A deadly feud that would ultimately bring Durk down was simmering behind all the songs and sold-out performances. Tension between Durk's team and Quando Rondo, another up-and-coming rapper, was at the heart of this feud. When Durk's right hand, man and signee King Von, was murked outside an Atlanta club during a brawl with Quando Rondo's group on November 6, 2020, the tension between these two sets reached a breaking point. When Von reportedly rushed up on Rondo, Timothy Lull, Tim Leaks, Rondo's friend, fired rounds that killed Von. Although Lull Tim was charged with the body, he was freed in 2021 when the DA determined that it was self-defense. Durk and the O camp were apparently upset by this ruling, seeing it as just another instance of the system failing them. Both factions launched attacks on Wax and social media when Von was laid off. Rondo's End of Story, and Durk's 2022 song, AHHH Ha, which had lyrics about Von's death and vows of retaliation, were adding gasoline to the flames. According to rumors, Quando Rondo attempted to defuse the conflict by deeming Durk and requesting that they sort things out. But these peace negotiations reportedly failed, and the conflict just became more intense. The feds claim that Durk went from rap feuding to criminal conspiracy at this point, as OTF's big homie, Durk, allegedly placed a bag on Quando Rondo's head by giving bread and music-related possibilities to anybody in his group who was ready to carry out the hit. 5 men who are supposedly connected to OTF: Kevin, London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, and Asa Houston left Chicago for Los Angeles on August 19, 2022, with the intention of smoking Quando Rondo. Were using 2 leased whips to chase Rondo and his cousin Servia Lowell Pab Robinson, who were traveling in a black Cadillac Escalade. The team let it spray at a gas station close to the Beverly Center in Los Angeles, catching Lowell Pab but missed Rondo. A switch automatic rifle was used in the shooting, endangering pedestrians at a major junction. Plastic connected to Durk's former manager used to book hotel rooms and flights for the suspected hitman is among the evidence the FBI are keeping. Durk's private jet ride to California with Grant on August 18, 2022, the day before the shooting, and a text message he sent to a friend that said, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." Additionally, Durk's defense team would subsequently contend that the lyrics were recorded before to the shooting, but the feds are still pointing to lines from his 2022 song, Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, with Babyface Ray, that they said alluded to the shooting. The FBI discovered that Durk had purchased one-way tickets to Dubai and Switzerland, as well as a PJ to Italy, after the 5 OTF accomplices were apprehended in Chicago. On October 24, 2024, the federal government believed he was attempting to escape and apprehended him at Miami International before he could board a plane to Italy. Lil Durk received a booking and was struck by conspiracy to carry out murder for hire that results in death using interstate facilities. Death causing murder for hire, committed in interstate institutions carrying, firing, and using guns, including a machine gun. In the commission of a violent crime that results in death, Durk could not be allowed to drive again if he is proven guilty. The musician who dubbed himself the voice of Chicago is now mute behind bars awaiting a trial that may decide whether or not he ever sees freedom again. Thank you for viewing. For more captivating videos, look at the other boxes on the screen.